I would like to welcome you to getting started using geofences and notifications. This is video 1.1, and if you have not done so, it is highly recommended you watch the 1.0 video on monitoring and tracking prior to watching this video. Once you log into the system, you will notice we have added geofences and notifications to the main toolbar. The Notifications tab is also where you set your geofences and speed alerts. We recognize that many of you watching this video may have never heard the term geofence. However, I think of it as simply an electronic fence that you choose to place around an area that you want to be notified when the unit you are monitoring either enters, leaves, or both enters and leaves the area you have fenced in. Let's click on Geofence to get started. Next, click on New tab in the Management panel on the left side of your screen. Under Geofence Properties, type the name you wish to call your first geofence. For now, I will title this geofence Test Site. For description, I will type in Test Site 1. The next decision you must make is what type of geofence do you want to set up. You have the option between polygon, line, and a circle. For now, we will choose the polygon. However, we recommend you test and also become familiar with the line and the circle geofence. Choose a color for your geofence. We will choose yellow, and for visibility, I would suggest leaving it as is. This is important depending on the size of the geofence. It allows for tracking to be seen through the geofence density. As we will show you a little later, you have the option of keeping the geofence visible when tracking or still having it active, but not visible when monitoring and tracking. At this point, it is time to create the geofence. When creating a polygon geofence, you use your mouse and double-click on the points you wish to set your geofence. You can also see the color you chose, and you can see the visibility and density of the geofence. Once you are satisfied with the perimeter you set for your geofence, you save your geofence. It is important to remember that a geofence won't work if you don't set up your notification process. Next, we go to the Notifications tab located on the toolbar. Click on the tab and you will see the Notifications Management section below. Now let's set up a geofence for the test site. First, click on the New tab in the upper left corner. You will see a list of units you have on your platform. In this case, there is only one unit, so we will check the box next to the unit and click Next. Here you will see several types of trigger options. In the 1.1 version, we will be focusing only on speed alerts and geofences. For now, choose Geofence and click Next. Do you want to be notified when the unit enters the geofence, exits a geofence, or both? If you choose both, you will be required to set up two notifications, one for entering or going inside and one for exiting or going outside the geofence. For now, we will choose entering a geofence. Once you decide on the unit position, you choose the geofence you want to activate and move it to the right column. Click Next. In the 1.1 version, all messages must be sent by email. Choose Email and fill in the emails you wish to have the notifications sent. You can add as many emails as you want. Click Next. The next page is pre-programmed, so just click Next. Do not attempt to change any code on this page. Here, you will name the notification. For example, Test Site. Description, Test Site 1. Click the box for a time interval. It is currently set for a period of 1 year, but you can change it to a day, week, month, etc. Next is the control period from current time. I would set the time period for at least 10 minutes. That won't mean you need to wait 10 minutes for a notification, as in most cases they are instantaneous. I generally use an hour as a safety net, as it doesn't slow the process down. The problem by not giving enough time for the server to receive and analyze data is that you could miss a trigger. Let's say you chose 1 minute for a control period and it took 1 minute and 5 seconds for data to be evaluated on the server. You would have missed a trigger and not been notified that the unit entered the geofence. Next, the minimum duration of an alarm state. To make sure it isn't a false reading, I would suggest a minimum of 30-second duration for an alarm state. To be more conservative, use a minute. For example, if you feel more comfortable choosing a minute, that means if you leave a geofence, you need to be out for 1 minute to activate the alarm and stay in for 1 minute if you are entering. The maximum triggers. The maximum number of triggers you set is important. After reaching the maximum number of triggers specified in this field, the notification turns off automatically. If no information is placed in the field, the notifications will run for the time you chose in the time interval, which in this case was 1 year. Remember, you can set it for a day, a week, month, etc. And you can always delete it at any time. For example, if you chose 10 triggers and your 10 triggers were reached in a week, that is it. The notifications are turned off. If you leave this blank, the triggers will run continuously within the time interval you set. If you really want to tighten it up, you can use this icon to apply specific intervals. For example, you can define more specifically by days, by weeks, by month, and more. Next is generating notifications. You have the option of generating a notification, 1, only when the state changes, and 2, for all messages. We recommend checking the circle only when the state changes. When choosing this option, it is critical that when you structure your notification for the alarm state and enable your notification for the alarm state, that at that time the unit is not physically located in the alarm state that you want the event to occur. Next, you need to determine the minimum duration of the previous state. This parameter is used to exclude excessive triggers. As such, I would consider setting this parameter for 30 seconds to a minute at the minimum. For example, if you had triggered an event by going into a geofence, you would have had to be outside that geofence for the duration you chose prior to the event taking place. You can set the interval in seconds, minutes, or hours using the drop-down list. I would think this through to eliminate any false positives. Next is the maximum time difference between messages. When the system receives a message which is identified as an alarm, that is, it contains the parameters that are intended for notifications, the previous message is analyzed. If the time difference between the current message and the alarm exceeds the maximum time difference between messages parameter, the notification does not trigger. I am in the habit of setting this parameter for 10 minutes. Moving to the timeout option, this is the time interval for receiving the message, after which it will be analyzed. It is recommended to set a bigger time value if the device has a black box, which might be required sometimes in order to unload all the messages stored during the period of communication loss, for instance, while the device was abroad. Set the interval in seconds or minutes. Select the interval type from the drop-down list. The maximum allowable value is 30 minutes. 5 seconds would most likely be plenty of time, so I generally use 5 seconds. Next, be sure and click the box Enabled. If you want to take advantage of LBS, location-based service, it may provide you additional value. Go ahead and check that box. Click OK and you're ready to go. Thank you for your time and have a great rest of your day.